there is nothing substitute to the knowledge. Finally, these all remain as an aid only, visual aid, or maybe iPad or leaflet, or maybe any reference what you offer to the customer. Most importantly, this is a knowledge industry. Are you really able to influence the decision making by sharing the right real knowledge with the customer? Why your molecule? Why your case study is important? Why your brand? So do we have an answer of all these why? Possibly, you will be in the position and the situation to create a difference. So so much of learning happens on this show. Now my another, so then the second last question. The linchpin in an industry, especially in pharmaceutical or any industry, is the frontline managers. Those have a power to influence their team. How do you see, sir, the role of a frontline manager? Because in UCB also, I saw you were focusing more about, in influencing and capability building, competency building of a frontline managers.
I think you hit the nail, because that's a very important part. That's a hugely important part, and I think that fundamentally that the many companies are making a mistake of not really paying attention to who they promote as a first line manager. Right, and that's something that the major part of this, the issues. Now imagine that you have a very successful star rep who's very good at it, right? He's very ambitious, or she is very ambitious, right? And then performing very well. So very obvious question is that if you don't promote, this guy will, or this person will leave. Right, so the best thing is that to buy peace is that promote, and that's where the entire thing goes wrong. Now, why? That people will ask, because selling is important. He's successful in the role is the stepping stone for being a manager. That's another very bad assumption, right? Because being an individual contributor and a line manager require very different work values. As a rep, your job is to really sell and then achieve or exceed target in your given territory by ensuring that implementation of strategies, customer relationship, and blah, blah, blah things, right? The job of a manager is absolutely different. You do nothing of these. Actually, that what you do is that you manage those targets with and through people. So you need to work with people. You need to understand. So your work values have changed. The value of your work is very different than value of work that earlier. Because your value of work has shifted, your skills requirement or your competency requirements are very different. So how you can promote a star rep without looking at that, whether this person has those competencies, or these competencies can be developed or not. So that's the first, what we say, that mistake or that development error that many companies that do. And it's not that they do not know, but as we said that earlier, that organization development conversation, that they don't want to pay attention. They want a quick fix solution. I don't want this guy to leave, so I'm just fixing that up. That fixture may, destroy the entire team. That's another thing, right? Because that's somebody else's responsibility, not mine. Right. So that's something that how do we promote people? And the good company that they start early. What they start looking at that how to find and develop leader while they are itself in their role. So you're a star rep, and then you've been that selected, and then you've been going through the rigor of things, where that your position doesn't change, but your responsibilities are added. So you get exposure. When you get exposure, you understand that whether you can do that or you say that this is not my cup of tea, because I find it extremely difficult to deal with people. That's it. Leadership is all about people, right? How to deal with people, right?
So people need to really understand the skill required as an individual contributor or skill required to become a leader, and then how you identify them and how you transition these individual contributor to the people manager or the leader like that.
Absolutely. So what kind of interventions are required? What kind of support is given? What kind of, in role, see what happened that, we make a fundamental mistake that the training, say that I given a training. Now, training doesn't work. We all know that training is the least that impactful of any of the intervention, and I'm saying typical sense of training, right? So many of companies that they understand that how to make that work is that they blend the training with experiential learning. So you have the three aspects, and I think that that very common expression we use is a 70-20-10. So 10% is what that training is all about. Training is that any kind of training, even that self-learning. So the knowledge aspect, that what you get that education or your, where the trainer trains you and things like that. 20% comes from a relationship. So you have education based, then you have relationship based, which means that coaching, giving a feedback, holding a hand, right? And then possibly that correcting. So your deliberate attempt at that, what it is. So the combination of training and coaching is a hugely successful way in the skill development. But the 70% is that experience. How do I give you experience? So you are a star rep, and how do you, as a star rep, how do you give you experience of a job change? Right, by giving you assignment, okay, that these two guys are reporting to you, you manage your territory, you manage these two guys as well, and then they learn that. Now when I'm saying this is not just a model that somebody else is reporting also. No, this guy is given full empowerment of dealing with those guys, which means that you are giving him resources, you're giving him training, you're giving him everything that how to deal with these things, even the decision making. And they learn that now that what kind of difficulty that, so experiential learning, which is the 70%. That's possibly that drastically reduce that chances of any failure in the first line manager, right? Yeah. And most of the training or most of the development intervention need to be blended in a way. If it is not just theoretical model, but in practically that you look at that. So there need to be what we call is a harmony or a perfect harmony of three things, right? I know exactly what I need to get better, what I need to develop, right? That will help me in my career aspiration. Very clear the developmental needs. Second is that my boss is completely aligned and supportive and willing to stick his or her neck out to see me develop. Third is that my organization is completely in sync, integrated, and then committed to provide the necessary resources to facilitate that. In absence of any of these three things, the developmental effort may lack the kind of impact that one expected to get out of these things. So these are three things to my mind is very crucial for any kind of developmental intervention, be it first line manager or any other thing, are very important.
Very useful point, sir. And second last question, sir. You have been associated with many, good eminent institutes, those who brings MBA pharmaceuticals or maybe some more this sort of courses. What is that thing which is missing, and how we can, mitigate this missing link if these people need to come from campus to corporate?
Oh, that's a tough question. That's a tough question. Tough in the sense that today's people, the students are broadly that I divide them into three categories, and it's always been there, not today, but then this generation. So one generation, they are not concerned about anything, right? They have the resources, and then they just enjoy their life and things like that. They're not worried about anything. Now, I don't know whether good or bad. So they don't think too much about the career. They don't think that what they are going to do next and things like that. Seriously, right? Not this, when you ask question, they have an answer that I'm going to do this. But then you ask second question or a little deeper question, they flumber. So they're not given a serious thought about that, what they're going to do. There's still that, that more, mama's boy or mom of dad's girl and things like that. Those kind of things that not really serious about their career. Second is that they got into some professional education because there's nothing else to do. They're not interested in that. Right, so they are kind of absolutely disengaged and things like that. They do not know what is happening around. So they run away and then they escape and they find. And so obviously that there is very little hope for these guys. Now the third category is very aware, very sharp, very good. They understand, they struggle, they make. Now those are the people I love, because these are the people that with the kind of little mentoring, little going beyond that what is the scope of, because today that the education focus need to shift from what we call as a curriculum base. You're learning to write exams, right? So you're learning to, that kind of preparing. Your entire focus is that how do I score in the exams. If you shift focus on that how do I really that get into learning, which means that your assignments or the projects and how seriously that you are researching during that time. And it's a postgraduate program, right? You need to do that a lot of research work before that. That might help you to narrow, if not completely bridge the gap that what industry is looking for in these candidates, and possibly that what the academics are preparing them for, right? So more and more those kind of things. Some of the institutions I find that they are trying to change, move away, and then introduce some of the subjects which are more practical and which are more that experiential base and things like that. So those things are good, but then it has its own limitation.
Sir, I remember my first lecture as a guest lecturer in one of the college. When the HOD came to invite me for a lecture, my first question was, tell me the pain areas. He asked me again, what do you mean by pain areas, sir? I just simply asked, okay, why are you calling me there? Tell me any disconnection, connect is there, anything you want your student to shape it up, where the faculties are facing some kind of challenges over there. So my job is to bridge those gaps with the little intervention of 1 to 2 hours of session. Then he was able to understand and realize, and he was able to share the exact things, sir, if you do this, possibly this will help us. Attendance was not there. People were not coming to the classes like this. So a lot more things we need to really understand from the educational institute perspective, the people, those who are professor, lecturers there, and they can really bring a lot of change by calling all the industry experts, those who have hands-on experiences, like the people like you, like Hariram sir, like Anup Son, doing the brilliant work, sir. Sir, my last question is share some resources for the people and the managers or the reps or for the pharmaceutical people so that they can learn better and they can become more efficient, more effective into whatever they are doing.
Okay. Yeah, I think that, we live in a very interesting world or very fastly changing world, or what we say the connected world. And being connected means that most of things that what we get, we don't have to pay for, including learning and development. All you need is that you need to be curious, you need to be interested, and you need to be willing to invest your time and a very serious thought about the development. Now, it's not now, but then I think that even when we I was a massive fan of that what we call MOOC, massive open online courses.
Yeah.
Now this MOOC is almost free. Rest of the university across the world, you get into the course and there are plenty of options, right from that the more hardcore subject like mathematics to statistics and things like that, to a softer elements like emotional intelligence, to possibly the managerial effectiveness, marketing, and anything that those every course and most of the renowned university, including Indian universities or Indian business schools, ISB courses are there. IIM Bangalore courses are there. Other IIMs courses are there on that, right? In any case, that each of these good programs will have about 100,000 odd people from different countries and things like that. So there's a wonderful amount of interactions and those things. There's a good amount of very well thought assessments are there, right? And the best thing is that majority of these courses are free of cost. Or if you want that, if you are more glamorized by certification, then you need to pay a very small price comparison to that. And these are very effective courses. They provide material, right? So I'm fond of that, and which is what that the really helpful. The other way that I think that more from the experienced managers, right? They struggle. They don't go out and seek help, right? And many people that they make their career that actually that stall or stop and things like that, and yet they don't seek help. That is a bad trend, right? I think that you need to develop a mentor, you need to find a coach, and then go out and seek help. I give you example that there's this guy that who has a wonderful career, right? And then he made a wrong career move, and he moved from one company to another. And because of climate and culture, that he was a misfit in this company, and then he almost lost job, right? The lost job means that lost confidence, even after so many years of working right? And then there's a very bad state, right? And there seems to be end of the road. So you are willing to take any job and things like that, and that's where that the situation. And if you find the right coach or right mentor, possibly that you will help, or the mentor will possibly work with you to overcome such difficulties and things like that. So these are 2-3 things that I would suggest that things are changing. So one need to really be serious and start willing to invest into learning. Don't think that the company they are working, they are responsible for their development. That's a very foolish, or their career. That's a very foolish idea that companies that will take care of my developmental needs and things like that. That's not going to happen, right? So you need to be very serious, very focused, and willing to invest your time and resourcing into that.
Great, sir. Uh, Sir, any last message we would like to convey to our audience, especially the pharmaceutical professionals, because this podcast will be, useful for all the people across the levels and and all the departments, especially in pharma.
Yeah. So thanks for asking this. I guess that one thing is that they must feel good that they're chosen the right field. Pharma is a very interesting area. We all know that we are at a stage where the investment into pharma is minimum in India, right? And healthcare is minimum in India. From here, that it's only going to go up, which means that your future from a growth or industry growth is secure. That this industry is going to grow in spite of all those things, whatever we listen or see across. So it has a much better future. So also that your career prospect. Now we also see that there's a war for talent, right? There's a companies that don't get that good people, entry level, line management level, or any other leadership level. Forget about it, right? We don't get that. So there's a gap in demand and supply. So the entire thing is that how do you shape your learnings? How do you become more adaptive to your learning? How you are open to experiment, open to failures, open to possibly that change careers, move, right? And what we say that today's time that the days of expertise are gone, right? We don't no longer look at that expertise. What we look at that how broad we know, right? So this is more what we call it T-shaped learning, the width of our learning and the depth of our subject, that what we know. So we can integrate that with all our different things, and possibly that will start making shift. The other thing that we talk about, the technology, and which is very, very important, right? Now technology will shape whether we talk about that communication or we talk about that any of these things. So how easily that we adopt technology, even if we are not expert, how do we understand the role of technology, right? And how we use technology with ease. That's something that will be very, very important and very interesting that in the future. Why future? That I would say that currently as well that those things will be very, very important. So how do we really possibly that maybe a step ahead of others in terms of adopting technology rather than a laggard, and then when you are pushed to adopt a technology. So that's something that I would request people to pay attention to.
So a lot of technological interventions and innovations are coming on the way. Now people are saying that my role will become redundant, my job will be replaced, my role will be replaced. So another saying is technology will not replace you. The people, those who know technology, replace you actually. Yeah. So yeah, you want to say something, sir?
Yeah, you're right in a way, but it's always been there. We're talking about technology. Earlier, we used to talk about outsourcing and offshoring, right? I was one of the company that I was kind of given a assignment on outsourcing and offshoring, right?
Offshoring.
That can we give it to somebody that, so that we stay focused on that. Now we are talking about the technology will replace. So it's not that it's a new thing. It's always been there, right? What are the things that which can be done by others more efficiently at less cost will get replaced, right? Is as simple as that, right? Now the technology that anything that which is a repeated task, and then you fix the process and things like that, any automation process will take care of those things. You don't require people to do that, because those are more efficient and they don't require any kind of motivation or increment to do that, right? So that's what it is. The issue is that the competencies which cannot possibly, that in near future the technology will never able to replace, is your creativity, right? How do you finding out a newer solution? How do you focusing on those things? Your ability to work and collaborate with others, empathy, emotional intelligence, right? Those are invaluable things that at least that we can't immediately think that technology will replace such things. So people will always be needed, right? We always talk about this fact that the technology equipments depreciates, investment in human appreciates. So you are today one position. If you invest on yourself, you will not depreciate. Your value will improve. Technology today, what you're using after 2 years will be redundant. New technology will replace that, right? Yeah. So that's something that will always be very, very important. So that's what that you need to focus on, that how you invest in your own self-development.
Wonderful. So this is becoming a brain tattoo for me. Wonderful thing. Yesterday I was going through a podcast by Yuval Noah Harari, who wrote this 21 lessons from 21st century, Homo Deus and all this. Yeah, Sapiens. And he was talking the same thing, he was making little things little scary, and he was telling that the intelligence and another one thing is called the consciousness. So that this all machines doesn't bring you the consciousness, emotional intelligence, empathy, collaboration, what you also mentioned, sir, here. So a lot of learning and value to this podcast, sir, to our audience. Thank you so much. Last thing, sir, this is a personal question to you. I have been, in touch with you from last, more than 15 years now. How do you keep yourself updated? I still see the same curiosity in you. I still see that the same, the updated knowledge. And what is there any discipline do you follow? Is there any pattern you follow? Is there any resources you follow which keeps you updated, which will be helpful for all our audience also to follow?
One thing that I tell you is that a lot of fight with my wife is one, and the fight is often about the books. And she says that now with all digital or digitalization, that you have all the books in digital format, and yet you order all the books in physical format. So that's where I guess that the important is that because I'm comfortable digital, I'm also want a physical book, because that's where that my comfortness lies, right? And I also have another way that is audiobooks, Audible. I don't know, many of our listeners would be aware of not. Audible is a solid resource. So usually that about 4 or 5 days in a week that I go for a long walk. What I mean by long walk is 6 to 7 kilometers, about an hour and 10 minutes or something like that. Right. So every week I finish one book. Audible. If I like the book, I order a digital or a physical copy, right? Because that becomes a reference for me. Now, one of the issues is that many of the books that I have looks absolutely new. Why? Because that I might have not opened them, right? So I don't read that cover to cover like many people, which I find extremely difficult task to do that. But I know exactly that when I'm looking at something, where to find which chapter and where. Why? Because that I have listened to that audio or those things. So this is last many years that if I look at that my phone, you will find that the maximum, the top of my phone's memory goes into the audiobook, right? And that's where that makes that significant. The other part is that you just be aware, and I think that many of the podcast that which you started, right? I think there are phenomenal leaders that you are interacting with, and each of them is a wealth of knowledge and experience, and they're willing to share. Likewise, there are many such wonderful resources. How much that you are part of that? So are you subscribed to HBR? HBR gives you a freedom to get into any of these things and things like that. Even if you don't subscribe, at least that you look at the HBR. I think the multiple times in a day that you get a prompt, and then they give a very easy to read. Easy to read means that 4 minutes or 5 minutes you can read the entire article, right?
Yeah.
And it's a valuable lesson. So those are I think that some of these things that I try to keep pace with. I'm not sure that whether I justify that if I can ever do that I'm top of everything, but then I'm still that. And there are many people, I think that one need to follow them. There are wonderful in terms of thoughts that Hariram sir is a wonderful. Every time I think that he's all over. Anup Sons is another that raises that wonderful thing. Salil Kalyanpur and many others that you'll find that they have a great ability to share and very useful material. Interact with them. When you read, you have a question, ask question, interact, engage. That's the key word. Rather than that just read and then forget. Don't be passive. Take an active interest. That's the only thing that I would say, and that's what that I try and do to whatever extent it's possible.
Wonderful, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. Really, it's a revision for me, learning from you, and I'm sure that for the same thing would be there for all of our viewers and the audience. And I believe that this podcast will be used for the education purpose, and the people, those who are there, really wanted to shape up their career in pharma industry, and may bring change in the way the people are working and influencing them. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much, Pankaj, and certainly that I appreciate being here. And I think that both Ishan and you are inspiration. The way that you have over a period of time that change, and I think that that's wonderful. As always, a wonderful experience interacting with you. God bless you. Thank you.
So, sir, you talked about books. My house is full of books. My wife is also a reader. My daughter is also a reader. Ishan gets every month the best reads from Penguin, and that is free of cost, complimentary. At least minimum 10 world best books we are having from Penguin. Thanks to Penguin also through this podcast I would like to convey. And more, I interact with Ishan sir. It's the reverse mentoring and the learning. He still read, he still listen to a lot of podcast. He still, and that you can see the reflection in his all the podcasts and the videos, whatever he makes. And he started giving talks also to all these engineering and the management colleges also. So this is how the learning curve happens, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Absolutely.